Hi, I'm Dallas Leslie, and this is my leadership experience stage managing Scrooge the Musical. So, just a little bit of background information first. This is a show that was just recently put on at the Mouse River Theater in downtown Minot, and this is my first ever experience stage managing. And one of the things I learned pretty early on was the importance of communication, not only maintaining it, but how I was communicating. So you can kind of see here in the cast photo, we have a wide range of ages that we were working with. We had kids, we had adults, we had teenagers, and the way you need to interact with them is very different because they're on different emotional and mental intelligence levels. We also had a lot of green actors, people who this was their very first kind of a show ever. And so I had to be very careful with the terminology that I was using, and I wanted to make sure that I wasn't using jargon, or if I was, that I was then explaining what that jargon was so that in their next show they would have a better understanding. Also, this was a very large cast. We had over 30 people on stage, and so it was very important that we were outlining expectations for when you were backstage or when you were on stage, how you handled your costumes and your props. And yeah, moving on. So then what specific leadership styles did I use? I used a combination of a couple different ones. The first one I used was the situational contingency approach of specifically the directing and the telling. Just as a reminder, this one was used mostly in the 1950s and 60s. It was the style of leadership that how you would act was very much based on the situation that you were in. Basically, different situations required different techniques. And there was definitely some of that here. There was definitely times where I had to be very directive and very, like, this is how it is, and we can talk about it later, but right now you just need to listen to me and do what I tell you to do. It's a very much a one-way communication, but I also found that there were times where the communication wasn't necessarily coming from me, it was coming from the director, and then I had to be the one to continue that communication on to the cast. Let's see. The other approach that I used was the reciprocal approach, specifically fellowship. This one was introduced in the 1970s, and it is still used today. I like this a little bit more because it doesn't seem quite as harsh and as brass. But like I said, sometimes you need to be a little harsh in theater situations. It is a relational process. It's very much, we need to be focused on collaboration with the reciprocal approach, and it's very much based on this shared goal. And so while we were putting on this production, we had this shared goal, we want to put a good show on. So things like explaining to the cast what needed to be done and then receiving feedback from them on how to help them better do that. There were definitely times where I was taking on additional roles in order to help support the cast. Specifically, when we were fairly far into the rehearsal stage, I was hearing a lot of, we need more time with the music, we need more time with the music. And so then it became my job to advocate for the cast to the director to help get them the additional practice that they felt they needed. And so then based on the definition of followership, that really fits in with this idea that we're all group members and we're all empowered to make contributions. And I want to be there to help them do that. And then, so how does this help me going forward into the future? Well, I think first of all, again, this was a really new experience for me. And so I definitely learned a lot about how to interact with people and how to interact with a varied group of people. Again, sometimes with the kids, you had to be a lot more direct than you had to be with the adults, because the adults would listen to you the first time you told them something. And then I think because in my job, I work a lot with kids and families, I think that this experience was absolutely applicable to what I am trying to do in the future to make myself relatable, but also someone that people want to listen to and feel empowered by my leadership. So yeah, that's my experience, and I had a really good time. This was definitely a big undertaking for sure with this show, and I definitely didn't know what I was getting myself into when I started, but I really enjoyed the experience. I would not trade it for anything in the world, and I would absolutely stage manage again. I would definitely do it again. It was a lot of fun. So yeah, thanks for listening.